When you say an advanced civilization was lost, what do you mean by advanced?
I mean a civilization that is quite discontinuous with and out of character with the general population of the world during the Ice Age. A point I often make, and I'll make it again now, is that the world we live in today hosts an advanced technological civilization, our own, but it also hosts hunter-gatherer peoples. There are hunter-gatherers in the Amazon, actually, who don't even know we exist. Kalahari Desert, for example. So the notion of advanced civilizations coexisting with people at a different stage of economic development shouldn't be contrary or odd to us, because that happens today. And this is what I believe will turn out to have been the case during the last Ice Age, that it wasn't just hunter-gatherers, as we're taught in the schools today, that there was an advanced civilization present. And when I say an advanced civilization, I don't necessarily mean, flying to the moon or using cell phones. I don't think that was what was involved at all. The evidence that I look at is, for example, ancient maps, which are copied from older source maps, now lost. And in a number of cases where we have references to those older source maps, the suggestion is that they came out of the Library of Alexandria before it was burned down, and made their way from there to Constantinople, and then went into a more general circulation. Now, the thing about these maps, so what we have are medieval maps from the 1500s, the 1400s, which are copied or based upon older source maps. And it seems that transferred from those older source maps is evidence of a global map-making project that was carried out during the Ice Age. So we can see features on some of these maps that were only present during the Ice Age and have been underwater for 12,000 years. Suddenly they show up on these maps, whether it's a vastly extended and expanded Malaysian peninsula and Indonesia, whether it's a little island called High Brazil lying off the coast of Ireland, whether it's a map that shows Sri Lanka joined to India, whether it's a map that shows the three main islands of Japan joined into one landmass. What these maps are accurately showing is the world as it looked during the last Ice Age. So this, first of all, suggests that somebody at that time was in a position to explore the world at least as much as we were doing in the late 17th or early 18th, in fact the late 18th or early 19th century, because these maps also incorporate very precise relative longitudes, very accurate.
I was going to say, right, they have to have technology, some sort of independent clock or something.
Right. The fact is we couldn't do longitudes until the late 18th century, the late 1700s. And this was because it was only then that a marine chronometer that could keep accurate time at sea was invented. And in fact, for a long time, there was a quest to settle the longitude problem. Why? Because ships were constantly sailing into coastlines, and people were getting drowned because they didn't know how far east or west they were of a
the longitude problem. There was a great book, I think, called Longitude.
Yeah, there was. I read it
about
Harris, Harris and the clockmaker, who created the chronometer and who got a special award.
Yeah, there was a big prize.
Big money was at stake, because this is a huge economic implication. So when I see maps that show features of the world that were last seen 12,000 years ago, and that those maps incorporate accurate relative longitudes, that speaks to me of a fairly advanced civilization, which was capable of substantial scientific feats, and that's what I think the other aspect of it is the placement of very large blocks of stone, megalithic sites, where in some cases the workmanship just boggles belief. For example, Sacsayhuaman up in Peru above Cusco. What you have there are, in some cases, are blocks of stone that weigh in excess of 300 tons, and which are multi-angled and joined on to other blocks of stone in a kind of three-dimensional jigsaw puzzle. And many attempts have been made by archaeologists to explain how this has been done, and I think they feel they've satisfactorily done so, but I don't find it satisfactory at all. And when I go and research in the Andes, what I see is evidence not for one episode of culture, the Incas, in the 1500s, and the Incas really were only a civilization for 100 or 150 years before the Spanish arrived. What I see is the Incas overbuilding upon and respecting much older structures. That the character of the workmanship is such that were it to be anywhere else, you would say this is obviously the work of different cultures, but somehow that seems to conflict with an archaeological prejudice, and so almost everything has been given to the Incas. I think we're looking at much, much older material, indeed we are now discovering very ancient megalithic sites where there's no argument about their antiquity, like Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, where again huge megalithic blocks are moved and set into position, and in some cases some mysterious sites like Baalbek in the Lebanon. Again, there's an argument here. Baalbek is supposed to be entirely a Roman temple. I don't think it is. I think that parts of it are much older. And I went there and made a special study of Baalbek. And there is a most curious U-shaped megalithic wall that surrounds the platform of the Temple of Jupiter, but at no point touches it. And that megalithic wall incorporates 3 blocks that weigh 900 tons each and that are raised 30 feet above the ground. So my sense is that we're dealing with a civilization that had certain scientific abilities and that may not have done things, may not have manipulated matter in quite the same way that we do.